So can we start it?
Yeah.
All right. I have a
I
lot
hope I
of
get the
questions for
answers
you.
right.
Yeah,
If I get the
sure.
answer
You
wrong,
will.
just hit the bell.
All
Wrong.
right. Bam. All right. So let's start it. So we are talking about the pandemic, right? So it's impossible not to talk about that right now. Uh, the pandemic affect the music scene a lot, right? So what is your expectation for the music business after this very difficult phase? Uh, what do you think about it?
Well,
How will change the music scene?
well, that's a very good question that unfortunately I think the answers are still being worked out. I think, like they're scheduling a tour, so I'm hoping that I'm sure it won't look exactly the same. Like I don't even know the details other than that we're gonna go places, play gigs, but I'm sure because it's a big organization, they have hopefully a system set up that creates a safe place for people to be. I don't really know what all that will entail, but I'm sure masks and social distancing and vaccinations are all a factor. Uh, yeah, the music industry unfortunately has been totally changed. Some of us are lucky that we can still survive, but I think it's in everybody's interest to get things kind of back to something. I know normal is probably not going to be the right thing, but more normal maybe than it is. Yeah, I wish I had a better answer for that question, other than it's kind of a still, we're all kind of in this
Uncertain. Yeah.
fresh, fresh new approach to a lot of things, beginning with trying to be safe. And it's, I hope people don't get too relaxed about the whole thing because it's easy to fall back into
Yeah, that's
old
right.
habits. But I'm, I've gotten so used to being huddled down here and not even thinking about doing much that it seems weird to think about doing things. But that's
Yeah.
just because we're all conditioned so long in fear,
Yeah. Yeah.
rightly
But
so.
for the owners of the venues and small musicians, they must be crazy to get back on track because it's like what provide their life, right?
Yeah,
Small venues or small musicians and stuff like that, right? So it's like a thin line between getting back to normal and get back safely, right?
exactly. Yeah, and I'm sure that's the whole challenge is to try to make that happen
Yeah,
safely. And of course, it depends on people getting vaccinated and following the protocol. And hopefully, the people that go to music shows are down with that because that will make it possible for more people to go in the future. Because if people don't follow the rules, it'll just be more of a surge event, which we
yeah,
really don't want because that's just going to put us back, set us back a few clicks, as it were.
yeah, yeah. So at this point, we were able to compose a lot of songs, right? And a new album called Venus Transit, which I love it.
Oh,
It's
thank you, man.
exactly like you said. It's like a soundtrack of a sci-fi movie. It's
Yeah.
awesome. So can you talk more about it? How was the writing process of this album? How you did it? What moved you to do it? What inspired you?
Well, it's funny. It was really more of a result of circumstance. And the circumstance was I was already recording this other project. This was in 2004 or five. That's how long ago I recorded this recording. But I was working on another project and we'd be mixing. And I was doing some keyboard overdubs. I had this really nice keyboard I got that had all kind of great sounds. So in the process of doing these overdubs, after a day of mixing, your ears kind of get tired. So I'd be like, hey, to the engineer, I got this new keyboard. Let's just stop mixing and rest our ears and let me just play some space music. So that's kind of how it started. Because I had, before I went in the studio, I had got this keyboard the previous Christmas and it had all these sounds. So I wrote all these things down in my notebook, which sounds were really cool. So I kind of had a collection of patches that all sounded cool. So I just, at the end of the mixing day in the studio, I would just kind of record these things really spontaneously. There wasn't really much thought other than pressing and recording, and the sound of the keyboard, those sounds were probably what inspired me to play whatever I was playing. And then before long, after a lot of mixing sessions of let's take a break and let me play some space music, I had collected like 10 of these. They're all pretty short tracks. And so that's kind of set up that. And also around that time, I had this, I still have it. It's a vintage Martin D18 that's kind of fragile. So I've never really taken it out on the road, but it sounds really great. And so I thought I'd add that to the mix. And pretty much that was it. And then I just kind of sat on the recording because I thought this is really a nice kind of ambient recording, but I don't know that I'll ever do a tour with this or even if
Oh, okay.
anybody would be interested because it's not
I
anything like
am.
I, well, what's cool is this year I just I thought, I should at least put this all on a download because to me it's a very relaxing thing and I just felt like sharing it because I really like that kind of music. Like, Peter Gabriel does soundtracks
Yeah.
that are really great. Trent Reznor does soundtrack
Nine
music
Inch
and it's
Nails. Yeah.
totally different than his music, although, some of his music has those elements, of course. So I just thought I would put it out there and I'm really glad I did because it was very satisfying to have people like that. And I thought, well, that's cool. They liked what I liked. And so we're all in kind of rapport of music appreciation because it was so different. It wasn't really like trying to be impressive or trying to be anything other than like, oh, this has a feeling. And I
Yeah.
just sat on it for so long thinking it doesn't jump out at you, but it's the opposite. And this year I felt like, well, people, at least at the beginning of last year when it started, people are kind of listening to music more because they can't go out. So
Yeah.
I thought, well, maybe this is a good time for this, and I didn't.
For release it. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
So that's kind of the genesis of it. It really was kind of a spontaneous creation that I kind of put aside. And then however many years later, 15 or 16 years later, I thought, hey, and I never really had a multi-track. It was just, I had it on a CD. So I had to find the original CD that looked all scratchy because it still sounded good. It was just skip and made noises. So I cleaned it off and I got Mary to make a copy to send to the guy who does mastering, and he said, "Yeah, I can work with this." So there it is.
Great. Great for us.
Oh, thank you, man.
So, still on new compositions, we saw that you released a lot of acoustic songs, right? New acoustic songs. And are there also new compositions on the electric guitar? Have you been working with electric guitar besides the acoustic?
Well, not really. I mean, other than those live streams, I have been, as I'm always recording things on my phone, and then after like a year of having a bunch of those things, I'll put those on a CD, and that'll become a work CD. So I collected a lot of the acoustic songs because last year when the pandemic started, I was getting ready to do an acoustic tour and I was just starting to maybe I want to do some writing to have a couple new songs. But then I couldn't go out, so I continued working from that tape until I had written like 10 songs. Because usually on a CD, what I call snippets, there'll be like about a minute of music, and I'll go through and I'll go, no, 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 yes, I like that. And then I'll go back and I'll start to develop it, usually means I learn that piece, which is usually about a minute, and then I'll start just kind of improvising until another section comes along, or sometimes I'll look up on the tape and find another snippet, and see if they'll go together, and then I'll have two parts. So that kind of works like that. And then in the process, I also record a bunch of electric guitar riffs that I use for writing. And I made a separate CD for TR3 a couple months ago just to start thinking about that. And so I have uh, a collection of, let's say, licks and ideas for whenever
Yeah.
we get back together. And I'm sure we'll probably go and play some gigs before we go back in the studio. So I feel like, I have time to develop that. And so after spending a year of doing social media and recording all the new acoustic songs just to put them out, I realized, well, I got to go back and record those acoustic songs in a nice way so they can be listened to instead of looked at. Because making videos and recording, it's okay because that's kind of what you have to do now to get things out because you can't go anywhere. But it's also a different kind of, you feel a little bit restricted because when you're recording the video and the sound, you kind of have to, at least the way I do it, I have to keep looking at the screen to make sure I don't,
Oh,
wander
yeah, yeah,
away. So
yeah.
there's like this double concentration of the eyes and the listening, but I always, okay, don't get too lost in it. So I feel like to go in and just record those songs without the looking factor, they'll be a little better. And also the quality will be better. So I've also, I've got this nice recorder that I've never learned how to work. So I can't believe it's all this time has gone. And I haven't learned how to work it because I was just got focused on making these videos. And
Uh,
the last couple of videos, just the more and more videos I made, the more obsessed I became with my mistakes or whatever I thought. And so I
okay.
would always be like, I still got to do it again. It's not right. So the last batch took the longest because there was a Peter Gabriel song, and I did another Peter Gabriel and the Spock piece and some improvs. And I finally got free of the, it would just take forever to do some of these things. I actually spent probably a month, not every day, but when I was working on these Peter Gabriel songs, I worked on them really hard and then I just kind of gave up and I was like, I got to put it away for a minute. And then Dan, the drummer, told me, you can get these things for streaming that you can get a better sound. So I started working with that just to get the the streams to sound a little better. And
Yeah.
the first one was the last one with the electric guitar. I used mics and the little ice stream thing. And then I started to record these things with the nylon acoustic because I wanted to get that sounding really nice. And I finally was satisfied with it after making like a whole bunch of videos and sifting through ones that I could not be, embarrassed by. I finally found some that were, well, that's got the least things I don't like, so that one's okay. But I couldn't
Okay.
get the sound right, so I've had Marcus, he's helping me to get the sound a little better, and it's been kind of a learning curve for me, a very slow learning curve. So anyway, I got these nice mics that I can record the nylon. It sounds pretty good, like the last video.
The last video
I
of
was
Peter
worried.
Gabriel. What's
Oh, thank you.
yeah, it sounds awesome. Awesome.
Oh,
It's
thank you, man. I worked
beautiful,
really hard,
beautiful,
and so did
beautiful. Yeah.
Marcus. So,
Yeah,
and there'll be
beautiful,
more of
beautiful work.
those.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
So you already talked a little about it, but have you been in touch with the other tier three members? Dan, Mick,
Oh
did
yeah, I talk to
did
them
you
every so
guys?
often.
Oh yeah, did you get any ideas of new music and stuff like that?
Not really. I mean, we just kind of been waiting to see how things pan out with playing, and I think hopefully maybe after this DMB tour we can look at doing some shows and get back into it, and then maybe do some recording next year for sure.
Okay. So you have in touch with the Dave Matthews Band members, talking about the new tour that there is coming. Are you guys worried about it? Uh, did you have
I
in
haven't
touch
really
with
talked
anybody?
to anybody about that other than I think everybody's really psyched to go
Okay.
try it. I'm sure everybody has a little worry, but they're also a little pretty psyched. And I'm sure we'll all start to figure it out as it gets closer to the to the time to start.
Okay. All right. Okay. Speaking of the DMB, you participated of the recordings of the first three albums, and then you participated from the last three, right? So has the writing process for you changed of the over the time, or it's the same? The approach of the records. How is the process for you? Just for you. How do
Well,
you go there and
what, what,
record?
what usually happens is Dave comes up with his song, and then we'll learn them and start playing. And in different albums, when I've come into the picture to record, it's been at different phases, like the Crux, that album, the Crux. I'm trying to think. I think some of that started with my memory. They had recorded some jams, the DMB, but not, it was like the four of them, I guess. And Rob Cavallo had kind of collected some that he thought would work. I hope I'm not getting this confused.
No, no.
Because a lot of the albums were done in different sections, like not all at once. And some of them were like that, and some of them were done all at once. I'm just trying to remember. I know we did a lot of studio work in New Orleans for the Crux album.
For
We were there
the
for
big
like a
whiskey,
month.
yeah.
What'll happen is sometimes I'll work on my parts and the band will work on their parts, and then Dave will take it and be with Rob Evans or whoever's producing for a while, and they'll kind of rework it, like. So it's mostly Dave comes in with the song, and then sometimes by the time I come in, it can be already have drums and be set up like what was the one? After this last year of being in a pandemic, I can't remember anything very well because there's a whole year
Everybody.
of missing information that's all the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like the last album we just did, I thought I didn't know how far along they were, and I thought, oh, we're gonna go start a record. And when I got there, it was almost like, here's 11 tracks. They almost already sounded like they could have been done, but it was mostly just Carter and Dave. But it sounded huge, and I don't even know if Stefan had started working on it. And then Buddy and I worked on it, and we did all of our parts in about 2 weeks. And I haven't heard the results. Actually, I'm getting some music to listen to. I might have it right now. I just have to get it downloaded to a CD. So I guess all the albums have different kind of approaches depending on when everybody gets together. Obviously, this record that they just did, it was done like a couple people at a time for safety. Now I went to the studio with Buddy. Dave worked with Carter a lot. Stefan was doing things remotely, but then I think the horns came to the studio after I was there. I know it sounds kind of chaotic, but that's kind
It's
of my
like a
name.
puzzle, right?
It is like a puzzle, and it's kind of cool that we have the technology now to do it that way very efficiently and still capture a lot of energy, which is cool.
Yeah.
Because I think with the last record, everybody was so psyched just to play. There was a lot of energy ready to go, and wow, what was the one before that? Yeah, the one before that was done even
Away
like
from the world, right? I
yeah.
think
Oh
that
no, the last one that Samurai Cop was on.
Samurai Cop's on. Yeah, it's the. Oh my God, I forgot the
Yeah, that
name.
one was done a bunch of different places too.
Yeah.
I remember doing overdubs in LA a couple of years, well, more than a couple of years ago now. And I remember, I'll hear a version of it, and then when it comes out, I'll be like, I don't remember doing that. Like
Oh,
there was, for the whole time we played Samurai Cop, there was always a horn solo, or instead of a solo, there was a horn section.
okay.
So then a couple years later, I go to LA. They want me to do some overdubs, and they say, "Hey, play a guitar solo on this." And I did like two or three, and I didn't give it another thought because we did like 12 overdub tracks in like 2 days. So I couldn't really remember a single thing other than like, okay, give me the next one, give me the next one. And you learn. Sometimes you don't have time to learn the whole song and then get it. So let's say, let's learn these 4 bars, learn that, play it, record it. So it gets
See?
quicker to
Yeah.
do. And then when I got the record, all of a sudden I hear Samurai Cop, and then there's a guitar, so I'm like, who is that? Because it didn't even sound like me because I was playing through a different amp too, a super amp. Like I was like, that sounds really different, and so that's really cool to be surprised by that
Oh,
sometimes.
that's awesome. Yeah, yeah.
So who
And
knows what's gonna happen next on the next one?
yeah, and the thing is, that's my next question. The electric guitar has been more in evidence in the last 3 albums,
Yeah,
especially with this distortion, right? So, did that come from you, from Dave, from the producer? Can you
I
remember that?
guess in general it usually comes from the producer and Dave, uh, and then they just say, "Okay, here's a track," and then once in a while, if I get on a lick or something that they like, they'll kind of come out and go, maybe do another one like that, you know? Or then
Okay.
after I do a couple takes like this, they'll say, okay, try something else, some different thing. And then, they'll have choices that they can listen to because sometimes you'll hear something once, but if you hear it like 6 times, you might have 6 different opinions
Yeah.
as to, at least in your own mind, as to what it's like. Like I do that at home a lot. I'll make a recording and then I'll listen back and I'll go, oh, off. And then like a week later, I'll go, it's not that bad. Let me let's do it again. So it's almost like the mood, the mood you're in.
Yeah.
Uh,
But it's because the distortion, I think, in the Big Whiskey CD, the Gruguk CD, when I first heard Why I Am, I say, whoa, look at that electric guitar take care of the whole track,
oh,
it's very, very different that those guys did before, right?
yeah,
And then the other tracks, and you have a lot of electric guitar. I like it a lot. So that was my question. Did that come from Tim, from the producer? David wanted, but it's awesome for me.
yeah.
It's awesome
Anytime
to
they
have.
say play electric, I'm really psyched because
Yeah, yeah,
and I think it as the years have gone by, they've kind of become less of an acoustic, just acoustic, and like even Dave plays a lot of electric now. He plays a
yes,
baritone.
yeah,
So yeah, they kind of have branched out sonically, which
yeah,
I think is really good. And now with Buddy in the band, that just takes it to another level.
yes,
In the studio, which was great hearing what he can do, but on those gigs live, it's like every show is like a music lesson to have this guy next to me with these keyboards who can play the organ like you're in church, like just amazing. And the
yeah,
piano, it's just like having a
yeah. He's a
master
great
there.
musician. Yeah,
And just every day was a learning experience. I can't wait to get back there.
yeah.
Did he just do that?
And the whole
He's
process
really
is
inspirational.
like the evolution, right? Music cannot
Yeah.
stay the same forever. You have
No.
to change and search for new things, right? And I think
Yeah.
the MB did that very well. So
Yeah.
it's awesome. Okay, let me see. Oh yeah, with the MB, you play like in large venues, right? Amphitheaters, stadiums, and stuff like that. But with Teatri, you play like small venues, pubs, clubs, and stuff like that. The way you approach the show on stage, off the stage, is the same. It's the same dynamic for you. Those
I
two
guess it's
different worlds.
yeah, I think it is kind of two different worlds. And it's like I've been doing both things for so long. I guess I'm just conditioned to go approach it differently. I guess the cool thing about playing little places is that you can pretty much see everybody and
Yeah.
you can see the look on their face. And that's awesome.
The reaction of the audience. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't, I almost get choked up. But also, the big venues, there's a big love that comes out of those, that swarm of people that just looks like a bunch of, looks like the Tibetan painting, those Tibetan tankas where they show somebody like a Tibetan Buddha and then like a million people
Yeah.
because they're meditating good vibes to all these people in their mind. And so they picture all these people like it's a
Yeah.
meditation. I remember the first couple shows standing in front of that kind of crowd. I'm like, this looks like a Tibetan Buddhist tanka, which is like those pictures
See,
with
yeah.
all the people. And it's a beautiful kind of metaphor for what we're doing. We're like, they're giving us this energy. And it's a similar in a smaller venue, but it has more obviously of an individual character. And when you play the big pavilions and they all have a very similar physical look, that becomes a oneness. And the small places have a oneness too. They come in more of a variety of shapes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like the best small venues for the energy is a rectangular room that's long this way, and you just see all the people and the energy
Other
goes
people.
right. That it sounds best, looks best, feels best. But and also any given night, the same venue can have like a kind of a sleeper vibe or and that's the
Yeah.
beauty of playing every night. It's like the way you play guitar. I can mess up one night, and then the great thing about playing every night is, well, tomorrow night, hopefully I won't mess it up. So you don't feel so bad about making a
Yeah.
mistake or feeling like you did something inappropriate musically. And that's what's kind of hard about doing videos at home for streaming, because it's like,
Yes.
well, streaming is different because that's live. But when you're doing something that you know it's going to be looked at over and over, you just get this different kind of nerdy concentration, I guess.
Yes.
Like I want this to be right. And I realize doing that, I never do anything perfect. I just have to find a version of something that has the least things that make me go, ow. But that's just the nature of looking at the microscope of your own playing. It's kind of
Oh
scary.
yeah. Yeah. And did you ever get nervous before a show, a concert? Did you sometime you get nervous or not?
Well, back when we played shows like all the time, I wouldn't really get nervous. I mostly just get excited and pumped. Uh, Now there might be some nervousness just having not done it. I just did a gig recently. It was an outside gig. Everything was done to keep it safe, but I didn't really do the sound check right. So there were different things about it that for me, the sound wasn't great, but I know that people appreciated it. And that was the most important thing. I just forgot, having not done any gigs in a long time. When you do a sound check, for acoustic guitar, you really got to dial it in. But what happened on that gig is the first guitar that I sound checked, there was an issue with it and it wouldn't stop humming. So I became
Oh,
a little stressed and focused on that. And then I realized, since I was playing in town, I was like a half an hour from my house. I realized, well, I just have to cut the sound check short and go get the other guitar if I
the
want to
other
use
guitar.
12 string. So that became the focus of that gig, trying to troubleshoot. But I know, once you do more gigs, you get more used to it. I couldn't believe that I didn't think it through that much, but I was excited. Playing a gig. Oh, it's kind of scary. It's kind of thrilling.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Uh, okay, let's talk about tier three again. The new formation of tier three, I think, started in 2008, right?
Yes.
And since then, there have been 3 albums, right? And many, many shows. Can you talk about it, how the lineup started? Do you remember the first show that we did with Dan and Mick?
Oh yeah, I very much do. We did a show at this little place called, I think it was called Ocean Boulevard. It's like a little restaurant right on the road that's by the ocean. And we didn't really even have an official rehearsal with the three of us. They came over to my house one afternoon and we kind of talked through a set, and then we played it, and it was really fun, like very loose. Uh, and then we did another show, and right before I did these shows, I had been working with drum machines, which play everything exactly the same way, which taught me that I never play anything the same way. So we started rehearsing more, and then the second show we did was also really good because it was at a bigger venue and a bigger crowd. And I felt like it might not have been as tight, but that's because I was starting to think about all this music. But then we recorded the show. And when I listened to it back, I was like, wow, it's live. People playing the stuff that I did in the program. That's way cooler than that, and I was completely, I just thought, this is a great thing. And it just kind of evolved ever since. And I think, like with the last album, we just got really super tight and
Yeah.
able to, we didn't even, like the records before the last one, we had kind of played the music some, most of it before we recorded. The last record, we hadn't really played any of it except for maybe 2 songs. But the way we learned it, it was so exciting to really learn new stuff in the studio and then play and record it. And luckily, we had, like 2 weeks to do that. And that was one of the most satisfying experiences. And I can't wait to do it some more. I also learned that you don't have to know the music before you go in the studio if you have time. You can start a day out, learn a song, and by the evening, probably record it. And if you don't get it in the first day, you can probably get it in the second day. So that's really a fun process to learn music and record it because you feel
Yeah.
like you're not sure how it's going to sound until you do it. And then it's always exciting because then it's like, well, I
Yes.
didn't know it would sound like that. It sends you on a different trajectory. And when you do overdubs, like, oh, I know what I'll do with that now.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
And I know for a fact that many fans, but when they go to a TR3 concert, they they are expecting like DMB related songs, right? And I know for a fact because I saw here in Brazil the audience surprise in a
Yeah.
very good way during the shows about the songs of Chatri, right? So as you say, since it's small venues, can you guys notice that too? Like, oh, these people come to see DMB, but boom, whoa, that's not DMB. That's so different, right?
Yeah.
So can you guys notice that too in the audience?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I remember the first couple times I played with Johnny in Houston after Live at Luther College came out. And I think we might have even played more intense music like Ministry and some things. And I remember hearing somebody in the audience who kind of clearly came for what they thought would be something like D&B or acoustic. I remember
Yeah.
after we played some intense song, he was like, "Whoa, take it easy on us, man." Like, oh, hey, okay, well, but that was 20 years ago. So I think over the years, most people know what to expect, and they still come, so they're not super disappointed. And we've kind of the band has evolved to and we also have CDs out, so people know
Yes, yes.
over the years. But yeah, it's just taken probably more than a few years for people to learn that. But that's cool. That was, like you say, it was a pleasant surprise for
Yes,
most
yes.
people.
It's a very positive, at least for me and what I saw here in Brazil when you guys are playing, everybody was like ecstatic, like, whoa,
Oh,
this is awesome, right? So it's for
that's
me,
good. That was so much fun.
yeah, yeah. So let's talk about equipment. During all these years, you have acquired a lot of guitars. And I try to keep a track of all the guitars that you play, right? So is it possible for you to like define a favorite one or at least a top three?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Because I've been home now for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the guitars are in the DMB vault because most of them are like the reason we have double guitars for me is because Craig, who's the guitar tech, we just have one guitar tech for two guitar players. And he kind of has to watch Dave because Dave, he's breaking strings a lot. So he thought it would be easier just to have extra guitars. So if I break a string, I just go grab one.
Yeah.
And so there's double, whatever, like say if there's a flying V, he has two because the DMB has two rigs. One is a B rig if we go international, and one is for the States. Or sometimes we use them both if we play a gig on the East Coast and the next gig is on the West Coast, too close to drive all the stuff across the
Yeah.
country. So there's a lot of guitars there. At home, I don't have tons. I might have like 15 at the most. But my favorite one right now is the cheapest one I have. I got this for like 125 bucks. And it was, used and already old, so it just has a magical sound. I used to think I couldn't play it that often because to play nylon strings for me, it makes my fingers soft. So when I go play steel strings, it's like, ow, and I have to kind of get back to it. So I kind of now balance it out because I love playing that guitar. It's like, when you have effects pedals and they all sound really cool, that guitar, because it's just so simple and basic and it sounds so sweet, it's like having a special effect, but it's just totally acoustic. And like, I can just grab it like this, it's so light, and I can hold it like this, it's so small. Like even a dreadnought, you have to, it weighs about twice as much.
Yeah.
But and my other favorite guitar, I have it right over here. Hang on. Here. Let me put these back in so I can talk. I got this guitar at the same music store I got that guitar in Outer Banks. This is it's a used SG.
SG.
I don't even think it's the top of the line. I think it's like a budget SG, but it's also about 20 years old. And I have a thing about used
Beautiful.
guitars. I love used guitars, even though I have a lot of new ones. But this is kind of my fantasy guitar. When I first got it, it didn't work right. And I kind of thought it was a lemon. So it got left at Haunted Hollow Studio on the wall for like 4 years.
Whoa.
And I kept thinking maybe Craig would fix it, but I think it just sat there and nobody, looked at it. So the last time we were there recording, I said, "Hey, Craig, could you take a look at that SG?" And, it's never really worked right. So he messed with it and then sent it back to me and was still, the pickup switches didn't work right. So I took it to this guy locally and he put some other used pickups, some 57, vintage Gibson humbuckers, and all of a sudden it worked really well and it sounded really good. And I was very excited. So those two guitars are my latest favorite joys. And let me put my hand down. I forgot about that.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, let me talk like Cartman.
So I think you kind of already responded my question, but so you don't keep all the guitars that you have. A lot of is in the DMB vault, right?
Yeah, and actually I think those are technically owned by DMB. But if I need one, I can say, "Hey, Craig, can you send me this or that?" I'm trying to think what's here from that. I think all the ones here are mine right now.
Oh, okay. But I for me personally, I love that one black Les Paul that you have. I don't know.
It's right over there.
Oh yeah. How
That's
old
a good one.
is? How old is?
I got that. Well, I would say it was a birthday gift, and it was 90. New Mexico. I think about it. I think it's a 96, but I got it in like 97 or 98.
97.
And it had and I got it for less than what they usually charge because it had a flaw, which I never could find. I think it might have been one of the fret markers wasn't as bright as the rest. I don't know. But it's a great sounding guitar. So to me, it has no flaws.
Okay.
And actually, I have it tuned to regular tuning because in TR3, it's in a C tuning,
C,
and I
yeah,
usually keep it in that. But since I have been home, I had it in a regular tuning so I can play it more
standard.
often.
Yeah, and it's very heavy, right?
Yes, I
It's a
haven't
very
played it as much this summer because I broke my ribs about in January. I broke a couple ribs, so it's still kind of sensitive. So that's why this guitar is perfect because it's really light.
yes, light.
Likewise, the other one,
The
they're
other
both
one,
really
yeah,
light. They're my
yeah.
friends.
All right. So the other thing about equipment, it's like the 12-string guitar. Uh, it's a big part of your music and your compositions, right? When did you first become interested in the 12-string guitar in this model?
Oh, I love to tell this story because anyway, because I love the 12 string. It first started probably when I first heard a 12 string and then I noticed the 12 string, and it was probably a song by Led Zeppelin. Hey lady, you got the love I need. The
Yeah,
second time he comes in the intro, there's a 12 string doing the same. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And of course, Stairway to Heaven's got 12 string. So
yes,
I was already drawn to it by those things. And then when I started to like Genesis, a lot of 12 string there. And I was just like,
yes,
wow, listen to all those 12 strings. And then when I started to get into jazz, this guitarist, Ralph Towner, who's not really a traditional jazz player, he's really more a hybrid. He doesn't even do super technical stuff, but what he plays is so beautiful. And his sound is probably 50% 12 string. And so back in the 70s, I remember getting a Takamine 12 string, which I had for a couple of years. I eventually sold it to get a guitar much like this. But then eventually I got, wow, I think the next 12 string I got was this Yamaha I bought for another $125 guitar. And it was a 64. It looked like it couldn't possibly work, but it sounded amazing. And that's what I recorded the stream with.
oh, yeah,
So that was probably my second 12 string after the one I had in the 70s. Because in the 80s, I don't think I had a 12 string. I mostly played electric in the 80s because I was moving around a lot in Charlottesville. I was just in Charlottesville, but I was moving around a lot in Charlottesville. So I would have like one guitar basically. If I got another one, I'd trade that in to get another one for a very long
okay.
time. It's called being poor.
Yeah. So last question, and I think this is a very hard one, but if you could just choose one guitar player to jam with from any era, who would that be?
That's right. I remember that question. Let me think. I should have given that thought because I remember reading that question. Go, that's a great question, but that just opens a wide, right? Some people that I would like to play with, I would be so intimidated, like Alan Holdsworth. But I would just the whole time just be staring at what he's doing, going, "How did you do that?" And then trying to play along. But it would be thrilling. Uh, Jeff Beck comes to mind, even though I don't listen to him as much as I used to because I used to always listen to Jeff Beck. But it's just something about the way he played. Every time I saw him, when you're watching him in his presence at a concert, you can't
Yes.
imagine anybody that can play better. And it's not about chops. It's just like what he does is
Yes.
everything, like a lyric. It's just amazing. So, and actually, he's still with us. I was thinking most of the people that I would probably choose are dead because I'm so old. Half my idols are dead now. Uh, but yeah, he's still around. But yeah, that would be pretty awesome. I'm sure in 5 minutes I could come up with 10, but I guess I'll stick with that one.
Okay.
But David Bowie, I
Well,
love David Bowie, even though he's not a guitarist.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I just love David. He was a guitarist, actually.
Prince,
Just what's
Prince,
that?
who is a Prince is a great guitar player too.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Great singer, great guitar player, right? So Tim, that's it. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Oh,
It
thank you
was
very
an
much. I hope.
honor for me to ask you those questions. So thank you very, very
Uh,
much.
Thank you. It was an honor for me to be kind of in Brazil for a little bit.
Oh yeah, but you need to be here like physically when the pandemic goes away.
Oh yeah, I look forward to it. It'll go away some. Well, it won't go away, but it's gonna get hopefully taken care of. And I use that word very loosely
Yes, yes,
in the
yes,
hopefulest way possible.
yes. It will work out for the good. I hope so. Yeah.
Cool. All right, man.
So, all right, man. Thank you very much. Thank you for
I hope I
everything.
got all the questions answers right.